Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and today I'm giving you a review of the Workhorse 1975 T. First of all, let's get some things knocked out right from the beginning here. This is 3/8 inch thick steel. Kind of the standard, the gold standard really, is 1/4 of an inch. So this is even 50% thicker than that. Also, this is about $4,000. So this thing is on a trailer. It can cook probably 4 or 5 briskets. It's 3/8 inch thick steel, and for $4,000, that's actually a good deal. I know it's expensive. I know you probably think, oh, that would really hurt. But for what it is, it's a great price. And I think because of the increasing cost of steel, it's like if you want to get one of these, probably pull the trigger on it now rather than waiting, because the price is probably only going to go up. Next, let's talk about this folding stack. So the folding stack is cool, I guess. I don't really see a use for it unless you're just trying to fit it in some place that's covered, but not very tall, so that it can fit in there. But when driving and stuff, if it were just one big stack, I think I'd be totally fine. It's going to be shorter than the top of your truck if you're pulling this thing. But if it helps you, awesome. For me, it doesn't really make a difference. Let's talk about the trailer. The trailer makes it very easy to move this thing on concrete. It's way better than casters. So if you get a smoker that is going to sit in one place forever and you're never going to have to move it, or you're going to have to move it once a year, but if you think you might ever be needing to move that smoker, having it on a trailer is so much nicer, because loading something like this onto another trailer takes some elbow grease, and this just makes it really convenient. Now, as far as pulling the trailer, it's kind of a small trailer. It's got some small leaf springs there. It's kind of a little bit of a bumpy ride, but not too bad. Infinitely superior to having to load a smoker onto a trailer to move it. Next up, it's got a wood rack, which is super convenient. So if you ever have to go, say it's for your nephew's graduation party, and you're gonna go cook a bunch of food, well, guess what? You can load all the wood on here that you need. You throw a cooler and some ice and some meat in the back of your truck. You hook this thing up, you go there, you cook, everything works out. It's super convenient. So let's put the stack up, open the door, and talk about cooking characteristics. Hey guys, I want to thank today's sponsor, Audible. Now, I spend a lot of time out here by the smokers, but I'm not just spending that time twiddling my thumbs. I'm managing the fire, I'm checking on the meat, I'm checking temperatures, I'm looking at the color. I'm involved in the process, but I still want to be able to listen and learn things, and Audible has been a tremendous resource for me for that purpose, because it's a resource that has thousands of different titles, so no matter what you're interested in, you can find something you like. So whether you like to listen to podcasts or audiobooks, fiction or nonfiction, Audible has something that's guaranteed to strike your interest. As an Audible member, you get one title for free every single month. And in addition to that, new Audible members get 30 days for free. Now, anytime I walk out the front door, I have two things. I have my phone and I have my headphones, because I always try to find time to listen to something that's going to teach me, because as much as I love teaching people about barbecue, I love learning even more, and Audible is a great opportunity for me to do just that. One of the recent audiobooks I listened to was The Carnivore Code by Paul Saladino. And because of that, I tried out the carnivore diet. You're going to see a video about that in the future, but the short version is, I am really glad I did it. It was a super cool experience. So whether you're after podcasts or audiobooks, fiction or nonfiction, Audible has something for you. There's so many more titles I cannot wait to listen to. It's a tremendous resource if you're going to listen to something while doing another activity. And for me, doing barbecue, Audible is the perfect accompaniment. If Audible interests you, just go to audible.com/MadScientistBBQ or text Mad Scientist BBQ to 500-500. That's audible.com/MadScientistBBQ, or just text Mad Scientist BBQ to 500-500. If nothing else, check out the link in the description. You can click on that. Before I open this door and we take a look at the cooking surface inside, I need to tell you that this door is extremely heavy. So it's probably a two-hand door, or it's like a one-hand and use some momentum, because how can I illustrate? Let me show you, okay? This is me doing it as slowly as I can. All right, any slower than that, there's no way that door is going all the way up. Usually when I open it, it's more like this. You gotta get momentum at the bottom so that you can just keep going through. But out of curiosity, I had my wife try to open the door, and she couldn't open it with one hand. For her, it was like an Olympic lift. So consider that. So if you're gonna have other people who need to open this door, well, you know, maybe this isn't the right option, or maybe you install your own counterweight, or maybe just say, hey, sorry, you're not going to be able to open that door. But once the door is open, you can see that there's a lot of cooking space in here. Now, the top rack does cook significantly warmer than the bottom rack, but of course that's true in basically all smokers. But the reason it cooks hotter is because this thing cooks like a big offset. So fire over here, the smoke and heat come out, they move across the top, and then down and out the stack over there. So this is where all the heat goes. So that means the bottom rack is pretty protective. So you can put your briskets and pork butts and ribs down there. If you want anything to, you know, really get warmer, you put it up here. And really, this thing is a pretty gentle cooker. And the reason is twofold, maybe threefold even. So the first is it has a big firebox. So this is a 24-inch diameter chamber, which is huge, right? The firebox is the same. It's got a big firebox so those gases can expand and begin to cool before they even enter the cook chamber. The second reason is because this has a 24-inch diameter cook chamber, which means that those gases will fill a bigger space and they'll be more gentle when cooking all the food that you got in here. And then the third reason is this is 3/8-inch thick steel. You know, it's not going to be given to huge temperature fluctuations. It's just really going to do the job incredibly well. So they took the gold standard of a 1/4 inch and went 50% further. I've been tremendously impressed with how this thing cooks so far. And so I've cooked brisket on here, I've cooked pork butts, I've cooked ribs. Been very happy with everything that's come off of it because it really does cook like a big offset. Now, the bigger the smoker, usually you would think, well, the more difficult it is to run the fire. No, it's actually the opposite. The bigger the smoker, the smaller the fluctuations you get in temperature. It just kind of works with you. This is like that, but in miniature. So I've been very happy every time I cooked on this thing. It's not quite as easy as cooking on, say, a 500, but it makes it easier than most any other backyard smoker. So for me, it's like the Fat Stack, you know, 80 and 120, and this Workhorse 1975. They're in the same category, the same class. And choosing between them is simply a matter of what is your preference. So opening the door on the Fat Stack is a lot easier than opening this door. If that makes a big difference to you, well, now you know. This thing draws a little bit more air, I think, than the Fat Stack. So I actually use the damper most of the time, just a little bit, so that the airspeed isn't too much and we don't dry out or burn things. But if I'm choosing, do I want more draw that I can tame down, or do I want less draw? I probably want just a little bit less draw, unless I'm in a place where it's windy and I just really need something that's going to draw well, because fighting against wind is a humongous pain. Next, let's talk about the thermometers. So this has 4 thermometers. This is the one that I really pay attention to, okay? Unless I'm cooking something on the top rack, and then I pay attention to this as well. But this is kind of the kind of temperature I'm looking at for what I'm cooking. Usually, I might have, you know, a brisket in here or a couple pork butts and a rack of ribs, something like that. But generally, the cooking characteristics are going to be most clearly represented with this thermometer here. Now, do you need 4? No. Do I appreciate the fact that they put 4 on there so you have a really good sense of what's going on in the cook chamber? Yes. So kudos to them for doing that. Next, let's take a look at the Firebox. So this door also is not light, but significantly lighter than this door. It's the price you pay for having that really thick steel. So there are benefits and drawbacks. But here we have a cowboy firebox, which basically means you can grill in the firebox. And if you take a look at this grate, it's actually pretty darn big for being a grate that you put in the firebox. It shows you just how big of a difference that 24-inch diameter makes. Next, let's talk about the grease train. So this is not a glorious part of any smoker, but it's actually very important. Some very, very cheap smokers that are made of sheet metal don't even have grease trains, which blows my mind, okay? So your smoker must have a grease train, which is basically a hole in the cook chamber where the grease and stuff can run out, because you don't want to start grease fires in your smoker. Now this one just has a straight drop and there's no valve on the end or anything like that. And so I'm kind of 2 minds when it comes to my opinion on it. Part of it is really nice. You just put a 5-gallon bucket underneath there because it's tall enough, and rock and roll, it's the easiest thing in the world. Also, kind of like, I wish there were a ball valve there so that you can shut it off. So when you're, you know, moving the thing or storing it somewhere, you're not worried about any grease dripping out. Now there is this thing that you can screw into the bottom of that grease drain, but inevitably, every time you do, you get grease on your hands, and it's a lot easier to just, you know, open a ball valve or close it. So this is simple, it works, it's never gonna fail, but I think I would just prefer a ball valve just to make it a little bit easier. Another thing we need to talk about is the quality of construction. So not only is this thing 3/8 inch thick steel, but if you examine the welds on this, they are the most consistent and probably the prettiest welds I've seen on almost any smoker. So it's a showpiece in and of itself. Okay. All right, next up, let's talk about my subjective impressions of cooking on this thing. So I cooked on it several times and shot some videos, and I'm just releasing those now. And the reason I took a while to release content with this thing is because I ordered one for myself first. And I hope you guys can forgive me, but I didn't want to make a bunch of content and tell everybody this thing is awesome and then put myself 500 people back in line and have to wait even longer. So again, please forgive me, but I had to get one for myself because this one was actually sent to me by a subscriber and it's actually leaving this morning. That's why I dragged myself out of bed to do this review, because this is my last chance. This, for me, is a tremendously good smoker. So any kind of smoker of this size, I would always put on a trailer just because it's so easy to use. And this thing cooks super, super well. Now, if you're talking about the Fat Stack or the Franklin or the 1975 right here, it's like you're talking about Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini. It's which one do you like the best? Now, for me personally, I think the Fat Stack is maybe 2% easier to cook on. This thing probably has a little bit better draw. The Franklin is more efficient because it's a smaller smoker. They all work incredibly well. It's just pick the one that you like the best. Pick the one that makes the most sense for you. Now, the greatest capacity is on the Fat Stack 120. The least is on the Franklin. This one is somewhere in between. They all have their benefits and drawbacks, but for me, this thing is so good that I had to buy one. And I would commend it to all of you to get out there and check it out. It's only about $4,000. Again, that's a lot, but when you compare it to some of the other smokers on the market, it's really not that bad. I mean, it's a great deal. Also, at the barbecue class I just did over the weekend, one of the participants had a mill scale 94. And so he's obviously cooked on that, and he got to mess around with this thing, and he said he prefers this. I was like, wow, okay, that's a good vote of confidence. There were 2 people who, before even leaving the class, ordered one of these because they had a chance to cook on it, because they have their own smokers at home, and we were cooking on the big pits for the class, and we had this there to mess around with. And so you could kind of take what we're learning with those bigger smokers and apply it to something smaller. Yeah, 2 of those guys bought these before they even left the property. So this thing is extremely good. It's very impressive. It's got my highest recommendation. I give it an A+. Okay, if you guys have any questions about this smoker, you can leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer as many of them as possible, because I want to get good information out there about how you can wisely spend your money, because you don't want to spend a lot of money on a smoker that you're unhappy with. Some smokers are a waste of money. This one's not a waste. If this fits in your budget, then this is a great option. All right, those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, you can hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. Also, you can follow me on Patreon, because on Patreon, we do contests to give away smokers. We just gave away the Fat Stack 80 because the winner of the contest actually came to a barbecue class, so we loaded it up on his trailer, he took it home, and I hope he's cooking on it right now. Also, we're gonna give away the Franklin in a contest and a bunch of other stuff: Yeti coolers, birch barrels, leather aprons, thermopens. A lot of great stuff. It makes it worthwhile. Also, even more valuable than the contest that we do, I think, is the Discord that's connected to Patreon, because we have hundreds of years of collective barbecue knowledge there, and people are talking, they're sending photos of their food, they're asking questions, who's ever done this, and it's just a wealth of knowledge, and you actually make friends in the Discord. It's the only place I found where you can talk about barbecue as much as you want to, and there's a community of people there who can't get enough of it. If Patreon doesn't interest you, you can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Mad Scientist BBQ. I'll see you guys next time.